Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabello with Hard Lens Media. Welcome to this very special segment. We believe that third parties deserve a platform and they should all be heard. I personally think that Hard Lens Media should not be an echo chamber. That means hearing different perspectives from Greens, Libertarians, Democratic Socialists, you name it. We got to break this system apart, and I truly believe that we should have a parliamentary system. So today, joining us for our show, I want to give a very special welcome to Angela Walker. She is the VP running mate for the Green Party with Howie Hawkins and his campaign. Angela, thank you so much for joining us. For our viewers and subscribers, can you please give us an introduction to who you are and why you're running with the Green Party?
Good evening, and thank y'all for having me. My name is Angela Walker. I am the vice presidential candidate for the Hawkins-Walker campaign with the Green Party. I'm actually really excited about this. I am happy to be working with the Greens, running with the Greens. I'm a socialist, have been an independent socialist most of my life. I was am a member also of the Socialist Party USA, and, concurrently with the Green Party. I consider myself an eco-socialist, so running with the Greens was a very good fit for me. Their platform speaks to everything that I believe in.
I think it's important for us to really address this whole thing with the Green Party right now, because there is a little bit of some back and forth in regards to how the nomination is going to be taking place for the Green Party. So, in regards to the convention and the nomination process for the Greens, really, what is that going to look like? Because we're hearing different points of view. So, when it comes down to the convention, so that people can pick whoever the nominee is going to be, what exactly is going to happen on the ground?
That's a good question. I will be completely honest. I keep myself out of those part of the workings of the party for the simple fact that I still work a job where I am involved between 10 and 12 hours a day. So I'm still driving a truck. So as far as, the nomination process and things with the convention, I'm waiting to see what's happening with that.
Okay. So then in regards to this too, I think it's important that we really address this with third parties, with, especially with the Green Party. There is a potential that you and Howie Hawkins could, get the nomination and go forward into the general election. But, there's a lot of people right now with the aftermath of the Democratic primary that's perhaps looking to consider voting third party. What are you prepared to do to really build a strong coalition for the Green Party? And also, what are you prepared to do to make sure that the Green Party is still a viable, political contender? What are you going to do to help build and maintain power so the Green Party will be effective in future election cycles? Because I think a lot of people want to vote outside this two-party system that we have.
I think this is a perfect time for that. I think that with the abdication basically of Bernie Sanders, I think that created a vacuum where people who were very excited about Sanders' platform, very excited about the things that he stood for and that he was purporting, all of that energy needs to go somewhere. And people supported Bernie Sanders the way that they did for a reason. And so I'm really personally excited about being behind a platform and putting forward a platform that is eco-socialist, that is something that is helpful for both people and the planet, something that people can feel good about voting for, something that they can support. And also built into what we're working at is the concept of left unity, where it isn't just the Green Party working, but that there's a coalition effort happening with Greens, with socialists, with libertarians, with small organizations that are out in the streets doing the work and building up a left unity. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is mutual aid and continuing to build mutual aid efforts through the pandemic, beyond the pandemic, developing relationships with people in communities so that they're not feeling like the only time we see the Greens or whomever is when y'all want to get elected. No, we're building relationships with people and also getting people used to the idea of leaving the two-party duopoly. Okay. That this is not something you're stuck with. that you don't have to deal with this if you choose not to. Because right now, I think a lot of people are a little shy to go third party simply because we've been so conditioned that it's either this way or that way, and those are absolutes. And so people need to understand that parties on the left do have power, and that they do represent their best interests, and that they can feel confident getting behind us. But we also understand that it's a slow effort building, and it takes time to build those relationships and get into those communities and things like that. But I think that between all of the groups on the left, we've done a lot of work to get that groundwork laid.
All right, and speaking of groundwork, I think now is probably the most opportune time for any third-party candidate, whether they're running for obviously the presidential race, or whether it's United States Senate, United States House, or a state representative, state Senate seat, or anything local. There's the call for national strikes. We're seeing a lot of people demand more fairness, especially since right now we're seeing the corporations getting bailed out again and again and again. So what is the Howie Hawkins campaign, and you and yourself included, what are you guys prepared to do to really reach out to a lot of these activists, these union labor groups that want to see something done? Because again, Joe Biden, he's running his campaign in his basement, and then you have Trump, well, he's being who he is. So obviously another perspective is needed. Are you guys reaching out to a lot of these activists and strikers that really want to see some fairness done? Are you guys even doing that?
Yes, we've been having town halls, and we have more that are coming up. Obviously, it's a little bit, we're having to move a little bit differently because of COVID. And if my air conditioner is bothering y'all, I'm sorry. It's hot now.
That's fine. We can't hear it. That's perfectly fine. We can hear you just fine.
Okay, it keeps coming on. But just reaching out to all of the different groups, like people involved in disability rights activism, reaching out to the LGBTQIA community, reaching out to Black folks, reaching out to Latinx people, and making sure that the issues that are not being brought by the two parties of the mainstream, those are the things that we're lifting up. And we're coming to people and asking them, what is it you need from this campaign? This is what our platform is. What do you need? And where do your needs and what our platform is offering, where do we find those intersections and build off of those? And also, you know, I come from labor. I was the legislative director for the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 998 in Milwaukee when I was a Milwaukee County transit driver. I did that for 4 years. And while I did that, I was in a position to make alliances between the transit union and other unions. And I'm sure that you can remember in 2011, the Wisconsin uprising came about after then Governor Walker decided to attack unions. And at the time, transit, fire, and police were exempt from that attack. And so transit chose to stand in solidarity and lift up all the other unions that were under attack, which was the right thing to do, but also it builds alliances. And so I have that experience in working with labor and am looking forward to getting back into it, you know, here in South Carolina.
All right. So then in regards to this aspect, let's actually talk about another prospect that people are demanding, or actually now it's starting to gain a lot more favorable views, and that is UBI. Now, Andrew Yang was carrying on with the UBI. It was his main issue that he was fighting for during the Democratic primary, which was then later on adopted by Representative Tulsi Gabbard from the state of Hawaii. So in regards to this, has there been any kind of communication between yourself and Howie Hawkins' campaign in regards to adopting a UBI-like policy? What does that look like? Where do you stand on UBI? Because again, we're seeing a lot of Americans really open up to the idea of a universal basic income. Can you please elaborate on that?
Absolutely. With the eco-socialist Green New Deal, the universal basic income, according to our platform, is a certain amount given to adults and children every month according to what their earning is. So you're not going to be giving someone who's extremely wealthy the same amount of money every month that you would be giving somebody who was, you know, middle class, lower class, working class, what have you. But we are, especially now, I mean, there are so many jobs that have gone missing because of the pandemic, there are people who were in a financially precarious situation before that, who are now like really needing the help. And so the policy, our platform during the pandemic would be to offer $2,000 a month to every adult and $500 a month every child during the pandemic. And then going forward as a universal basic income based on where their socioeconomic status is, everyone would be guaranteed a living wage above whatever the poverty level was established. We'd have to reestablish that too, because obviously the information that the poverty level is based on now is outdated. So,
okay. So, and you also didn't mention the Green New Deal. Now, of course, it's always associated with environmental issues, but of course, there's a lot of other things that are attached to it. But it's also important to note that perhaps a lot of people may not be aware that the Green Party was the one that came up with the whole idea of a Green New Deal. So I think it's only fair. How does the Green Party's Green New Deal differ itself from what the Democrats have adopted in regards to their Green New Deal? Can you elaborate the differences between the two?
I think with our Green New Deal, we're talking about a job guarantee. We're talking about the basic income guarantee. We're talking about homes for all in walkable communities, accessible communities, particularly for folks in the disability community. Those communities are integrative, universal rent control, publicly owned housing, regional transit systems. And I think that when we're talking about our Green New Deal, as opposed to what the Democrats are offering, we're talking about public control, not the state controlling and doling out as it sees fit. All of these entities would be controlled by the public. And, you know, democratically, we decide what we needed and how it needed to be done, versus that power being in the hands of folks in Washington that are saying, okay, this is what you need, and we dole it out according to what you need. These are, our option is a publicly owned option. Right. And I think that's the biggest difference between the two.
Now, of course, we're seeing this whole concept of a crumbling infrastructure right now. And, of course, we just covered this on the show as well, where a dam in Michigan has broken, and right now whole towns are right now being devastated. There's another dam that could potentially, who knows, it's still a developing story at this point, but it's at severe risk of collapsing. And even as a funny side note, however, well, I guess you could maybe not call it a funny side note, but even here in the city of Chicago last night, because of flooding, the Sears Tower was out of power, apparently, and it was no lights were on inside the building, and that's a major landmark in this city. So obviously climate change and our infrastructure, our crumbling infrastructure, are real realities. So in regard to this, how are you getting your message out there about the threat of climate change as well as our crumbling infrastructure? What is the Howie Hawkins campaign doing specifically to make this a front-leaning issue, so that people are more aware of just what's exactly happening, what's really at stake here in the United States if we continue to turn a blind eye to our crumbling infrastructure and to the real threat of climate change?
I think the fact that we're folding that climate change and addressing climate change, doing what we can to reverse climate change, is folded into every part of the eco-socialist Green New Deal. It's the entire plan is created with a eye to making sure that what we are doing is not just sustainable as far as getting people to work in the green sector and not just greenwashing, but actual green jobs and things like that, that are rebuilding the infrastructure that's crumbling. I mean, we've been talking about this. I remember when we were doing actions with the Occupy movement back in 2011, 2012, 2013, we were, one of the things that the Iron Workers Union lifted up was the fact that we are, as workers, we're here, we're available, put us to work repairing infrastructure, and that the money's there, the political will was not there. And this was under a Democratic president at the time. So, I mean, this is a problem that has been going on and on and on for a while, and we've been asking and putting forth solutions. And I think that one of the things with our campaign is that we're not shying away from talking about the fact that the environment is at the forefront of this. Climate change is affecting everything that we're seeing. If you're talking about immigration, you're talking about climate change. If you're talking about food shortages, you're talking about climate change. If we're talking about wars that come about as a result of our dependence on fossil fuels and our need to take them from other people, we're talking about climate change. So, when we're talking about our platform to people, it's worked into it. It's a part of it, is what I'm trying to say. I'm stumbling, but that's what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying exactly, and I think there's a lot of truth to it, because there's another thing that we do have to address too. Besides our crumbling infrastructure, look, there's a real problem with schools right now in this country. Not only is there the problem with student debt, where you have countless Americans right now paying off, every day. They're still not paying off their debt, and then there's also the real risk of basically public schools being shut down permanently. So what is the at least Howie Hawkins campaign? What is your initiative to really make sure that we really talk about student debt forgiveness? How do we implement that? And also at the same time too, how do we make sure that our public schools still remain open and that there's still access to free education for a lot of working class families?
One of the things that's built also into the campaign is, and I know that the Democrats put that idea forth too, but it came from us, that public education should be free from pre-K through college, that you should not be incurring debt to get an education. It's an investment by the state in its own people. And so you're just putting the money back into it. And also one of the things is that we stand against the privatization of public schools and the annexation of public school buildings, taking those buildings from the public. All of these are public entities. You're not talking about, education is not a commodity and should not be treated as a commodity. It's not a business. Right. And so we're talking about a student loan fund for student debt relief and fighting the privatization of public schools, making sure that those buildings stay in public hands, and thinking about innovation as far as, what do our students need through this pandemic, which is, keeping them away from school buildings for safety reasons. How do we work through that to make sure that young people are still getting educated, still getting fed, and also staying safe? So those are things that we're also talking about.
All right. Now, and again, these are a lot of great issues that a lot of progressives and independents can rally around. So I want to ask you just two last questions in regards to this. What is the Howie Hawkins campaign, yourself included? What are you both prepared to do to make sure that at least you guys are recognized and at least somehow, maybe in whatever possible scenario, to maybe potentially be on the debate stage with the other candidates, probably with the other vice presidential candidates that are going to be running as well. What are you prepared to do to make sure that you guys are at least on the ballot and to be seen on a debate stage? Because I think now more than ever, we need to see a different perspective besides the DNC and the RNC.
We're doing everything that we can as far as our campaign to get on. Our goal is to have ballot access and be on the ballot in all 51 states. Okay. That's our intention. That's what we are working towards. We've got folks on the ground that are working at that. There are certain states that we've had to put in petitions because we can't, traditionally you would go around and collect the necessary signatures to get on the ballot and things like that. Well, in the age of COVID, that's a little it's a little different, that landscape. Yeah. And so there are, other methods that we're using to appeal for ballot access, to work for ballot access. I mean, there's digital things that are happening. So, that's our goal and our intention. I mean, it would be wonderful to get the sort of attention that the main two parties get, especially since right now people really want to hear what we have to say. And I think people are thinking more towards what we consider left than I think they ever have before.
All right, and then final question for our viewers and subscribers, because I think it's important that, if there's many who are probably considering voting third party, where can they learn more about you and the Howie Hawkins campaign online and on social media? Can you please share those links so that our viewers and subscribers, if they want to learn more, where they can find you?
Yes, please. We are at www.howiehawkins.us, and the whole party platform, the summary, where we're getting delegates, things like that. All of those things are on that website, the entire platform. If you are looking to follow me, I am on Twitter and it's not even in front of me, and I can never remember. It's at Angela N. Walker VP, I think it is. I'm on Facebook. it's just Angela and Walker, I think, all the way across the board.
All right.
So.
Well, nonetheless, Angela Walker, thank you so much for joining Hard Lens Media. You are Howie Hawkins' running mate. They are running for the Green Party nomination. And again, we are very grateful for you guys all, whether you're Green or Libertarian, no matter what your third party is. We're grateful they actually give a platform for third parties. I believe that we should have a parliamentary system. So, Angela Walker, all the best to you and the Howie Hawkins campaign. And thank you for joining Hard Lens Media.
Thank you for having me.
And then as a final note to all our viewers and subscribers, thank you guys so much for joining us. I want to give a special shout out to DCK Punk, Kira McCown, and Kate, who are moderating the live stream chat. Special shout out to Daniel and Kira, who are my co-hosts. I once again want to thank Angela Walker from the Green Party, who is joining us. And again, huge shout out to Gunnar, who is maintaining the show and making sure everything's working right. So to everybody, see you guys tomorrow. Hard Lens Media is live every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My name is Kit Cabello. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future.